I want to dedicate this episode to talk about a couple of emerging coin projects within the real world assets tokenization space, which I think you ought to know about, and also the synergy bridging the gap between decentralized blockchains and AI, which again, from an investment standpoint, I think is going to really be pivotal, and how the various AI agents can play a part in the blockchain arena. So let's dive in. So here's the article that I've come across. It talks about the top 5, but I think for me the top 2 is the one that really has its own hands and legs. Before I do that, I want to jump in what is the RWA coins, why they are surging, and the benefits that they provide. So you have the context. So the demand for RWA coins, real world assets coins, is really rising due to institutional adoption. And as you know, President Trump is providing this infamous digital assets framework that will provide even more regulatory clarity for those institutional players, fintech startups, and more importantly, the capital into the US, so that it would enable the US to become the world leader in crypto projects and in Bitcoin. So this makes total sense to me. Now, what are the benefits behind real world asset tokenization? Benefit number 1 is fractional ownership. Now, instead of, let's say, first-time buyers who want to get into the real estate, so instead of coming up with an upfront capital deposit money, particularly for the first-time buyers who wants to get hold of a bank loan, they can just simply invest in fractional ownership, i.e. token representations of those premium real estate on the blockchain, and it could be just a handful of dollars rather than the 5, 10, 15, 20% upfront deposit money that the bank will actually require you to make available before you can actually ask for a mortgage. So that is a key attribute that I see behind RWAs. It just means it opens up the doors to every type of investor, which will mean bringing more capital than ever before into the RWA space on the blockchain, which leads to the next point or benefit around increased liquidity. Of course, if you tokenize absolutely every type of asset that you can think of that has that monetary value attached to that, then that can be perfect candidate for tokenization on the blockchain, which will enable, as it says here, that 24/7 trading, unlike traditional financial markets that operate 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. It also enables transparency and security because all the transactions on the public ledger by default are immutable and cannot be tampered with and can easily be verifiable. So any person can actually go onto a blockchain explorer to have visibility as to the transaction that's been made from one wallet address to another. And also yield opportunities. Now, many of these RWA projects, which the 2 I'm going to jump in next, provide their own tokens. So when they actually tokenize, let's say, real estate assets or tokenized treasuries onto the blockchain, they typically have their own native token representing those assets, those digital assets. What is the other enticement that they bring to investors? Well, not only will they be participating in the purchasing and trading of these digital tokens on the blockchain, also they would offer you the possibility to earn passive income through what they call staking and dividend payments. But obviously you have to be wary and do your own research because there are many types of coin projects. There's over 20,000 of them out there. That's causing an awful lot of confusion. And then lastly, it provides that reduced barriers to entry for the reason I just mentioned earlier on. Now, what are the actual top RWA projects that I can see coming out, which for me are the top 2 RWA coin projects that you ought to investigate and participate. Now, Mantra, first of all, this is like a fintech that specializes in the tokenization of premium real estate on the blockchain. They have their own layer 1 blockchain network. First well-struck deal that they've managed with a Dubai-based realtor. They've actually closed a deal for $500 million just for one particular Dubai real estate onto the Mantra blockchain. And that's just one real estate. You can think about the numerous thousands, if not millions, of other premium real estate properties out there in the brick and mortar world that can easily be tokenized and bolted on this Mantra real estate digitized network, which is absolutely fascinating. So obviously the use cases there is clear. It's tokenizing those premium real estate, and the growth potential for that industry, well, according to experts, as it says here, they predict anywhere between a 3x, 5x surge as tokenized assets gain traction. So that is mantra. And for me, the second most interesting RWA projects is around Ondo Finance. Now, why is Ondo becoming that interesting coin project in the RWA space? Well, if you think back, the US government, they're actually prioritizing the need to focus their attention in establishing market structure clarity in the US market and global market at large, because they want to kind of strengthen the dollar. And in order to do that, they need to be able to continue to issue their own government debts, which is like a vehicle for the governments in order to get the money that they can borrow from the investing community to continue to invest in their own national initiatives. And given the fact that the traditional government issued bonds isn't really attracting as much as they would like, because the interest rates, if you think of the 5-year or the 10-year bond, is relatively low at the moment. So what is the answer to this? Well, Ondo Finance is another fintech player that focuses on tokenizing US Treasuries. So fixed income bonds for governments, particularly the US, onto the Ondo Finance blockchain. So that's, for me, is really going to plug the gap in making the actual tokenized treasuries in terms of investment opportunity much more accessible, much more interesting, and thereby the rate of return in terms of normal interest payments that the governments will have to repay back to the investors when the bonds or the tokenized bonds mature, well, it will draw in more capital. It will make it a much more attractive investment for those investors out there through the issuance of these tokenized US treasuries on the Ondo blockchain itself. So for me, between the mantra and the Ondo Finance are the two that I would encourage you to focus your attention first. Between them takes up the majority of the entire RWA market capitalization, and it's set to grow. So have a look into these two projects, and particularly the actual videos that I mentioned earlier on, to do your investigation. And the actual article that I've come across here touches on the notion of decentralized AI, which again, I find it interesting. Like most industries, the digital asset space is being reshaped by generative AI, and the intersection between the two of the most revolutionary technologies of our generation, blockchain and artificial intelligence, is revolutionizing industries and reshaping how organizations operate. It says that it's powered by AI crypto tokens, platforms introducing new challenges and opportunities, thereby making governance frameworks more critical than ever before. This is actually interesting because I've always anticipated the intersection of this interesting narrative between AI and decentralized blockchains, because if you think about the actual brick and mortar world out there, the analog world, we are seeing that most of the mundane tasks are being replaced by autonomous AI agents. An intersection of that as transactions on the blockchain, you can actually start to appreciate the tremendous investment opportunity that could bring to the actors out there. There's clearly going to be a synergy between them. And the economy at large start to bring these two impactful technological disruptors together in order to provide a positive need for the society. Well, clearly there's going to be a tremendous investment opportunity to be had in this space. I'm actually a major stockholder of Nvidia and Bitcoin and other digital assets. So I can't go wrong, right? Because I already covered both of these narratives. So I encourage you to have a close, watchful eye on this space, because it's going to unfold quite rapidly. So that's all I have in today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to hit the like button, to share the video to friends and colleagues at work. And if you haven't done so already, to please subscribe to my channel, as I regularly publish some interesting videos such as these, anything to do with Bitcoin, blockchain technology, and the future of finance. So till next time.